Hello and welcome to Face the Citizens. I am your host, Iguma Gabriel. This is a show that brings duty bearers into the same room with rights holders. And today we'll be looking at the issue of campaign financing. On the 11th of December 2018, the Electoral Commission launched the roadmap for the 2020-2021 general elections. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission, in launching this roadmap, called upon the government to pass the much-needed electoral reforms. The Supreme Court also called for the government to pass these electoral reforms when they handled the election petition by one of the candidates, Amama Mbabazi, after the 2016 general elections. One of the key things that is supposed to be in these reforms is the issue of election financing, particularly the issue of the use of donations. A local CSO did a survey with MPs in the 10th Parliament, and 3 out of 5 MPs said it is critical that we come up with reforms on how finances are used during elections. And yet, when we look at the trends, it seems like with every election, more money is used. What is happening? That's what forms the discussion on Face the Citizens today. Welcome to the show. To have that discussion with us, we have the coordinator of the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy, Mr. Crispy Kaheru. Welcome. All right. Also, on the panel, we have the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Jotham Taremwa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And finally, the executive director of the Alliance for Finance Monitoring, Mr. Henry Muguzi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
All right, Mr. Muguzi, let's start with you. How exactly do we monitor the use of money in our elections currently?
Thank you very much. It's such an onerous task to monitor campaign spending in elections in a country where there is no legislation that mandates actors that participate in elections to declare or disclose the source of campaign finance, but also, how they have spent it. So that makes it very difficult. Basically, what we do when we are monitoring is that in the absence of that law, and the candidates are not interested in declaring to you, we have to train young men and women who basically trail these candidates and note down what they are spending on. Let me put it this way. It's like you are given a task to go to a supermarket to establish how much our host, Iguma, has spent. So basically what you do is you have a pen and paper. When he picks sugar, you note down, sugar 1 kilo. When it goes, moves on and picks a tin of margarine, you note that down and the quantity. And then at the end of the day, you go to the till where he's paid and ask how much is a kilo of sugar, how much is this, then you quantify, and then you come up with how much they've spent. So basically what we have to deal with is it's very difficult to monitor and be able to pick figures of the exact amount they have spent. They do not disclose the sources of their campaign income. So basically, you have to work with irreducible minimums. Like you come out and say, okay, a lot was spent, but this is the irreducible minimum we think they spent on the election, and that's difficult. Plus, also, I should tell you, it goes with consequences because the young men and women who monitor campaign spending are often mugged by the bodyguards that move with these candidates. Mm-hmm. They lose their gadgets when they take photographs, and yet you need this photographic evidence. So while they often get their videos and photographs deleted, some of them get to be thrown in,
By thrown in, you mean cells?
Yes, by police. Okay, sometimes in elections, the police thinks monitoring candidates or certain parties is a crime, and so they arrest them. But they have to hang in there. It's quite a difficult balancing act. All
right, and Crispy, as your organization monitors elections, as an observer, how do you see money being used in our elections generally?
Thank you very much. One, we need to understand the magnitude of the problem. And let me begin by saying that it's actually a big problem, and it's real. If you look back at the 2016 general elections, I think ACFIM did a survey across the country in 16 districts that they extrapolated to reflect the image of the problem in the entire country. And their findings indicated that parties spent about 2.4 trillion shillings running for that presidential election. Now, that's a huge amount of money. Let's put it in budgetary perspective. That's about 12.5% of the annual budget of this country. Now, that's a lot of money, because not even Ministry of Education or the education sector receives that, not even the health sector. Something that comes close to that is the infrastructural development sector. Now, leave that alone. In 2011, I was listening to one of the political talk shows in this country. And one of the candidates that was running for a mayoral office, Kampala mayoral office, was asked the question, how much do you spend on average for your campaigns? And she answered that just before the heat of the moment during the campaign periods, I spend about 50 to 100 million shillings per day. In the last 2 or 3 days of the campaign, I will be spending about 200 million shillings per day. She was asked again by the moderator, are you sure about the figures you're talking about? And she answered in the affirmative, yes, 200 million shillings per day. What are you chasing with 200 million shillings per day to go and get elected to be the mayor of Kampala? How much should you be expecting to receive in that office? I don't think a mayor's salary is more than even 30 million shillings. How long will
Per
it
month,
take you, per month?
not per day.
Exactly. How long will it take you to recoup the money that you've spent in this election, where you're spending an average of about 200 million shillings per day? Now, that's the magnitude of the problem of campaign finance that we are talking about. Now, for us who monitor elections, these things are real. We see them happening. Now, they happen both at the macro level and at the micro level. At the lowest level, we see the money being actually given to people and people being told to vote in a particular way. We see those things. They are factual. We see them. Now, the problem is not with actually directly the money that is being given to the people, but that influence that that money has on the electorate. Because one, that means that the electorate does not freely exercise its franchise to elect the leaders that they think are worthy to hold those leadership positions. Why? Because they're influenced by the money that they've been given. Number two, it also limits the number of people actually who would get into, who would vie for those leadership positions. The adage is now, if you do not have money, then you cannot run for elections. If you have to run for elections, then you have to go and seek loans and sell your property in order for you to accumulate the amounts that can sustain a campaign of handing out money and goods to your potential voters.
All right.
But also number three, and most importantly, money is actually not supposed to be in politics. Money is supposed to remain in the economy to create more businesses, to create more jobs, to create more opportunities for people. That is where it's supposed to be. Money is not supposed to be in politics. Politics is all about making decisions to move the country forward.
All right. Now, we actually invited a number of members of parliament to be present to answer directly, what they use money for in campaigns and what they're going to do. But you can see the MP seat stayed empty, and we shall leave it that way to show that maybe our leaders boycotted. Jotham, what role does the Electoral Commission play in relation to election finance, if any?
Well, Gabriel, first of all, thank you. This is a very important issue in an electoral process. The use of money. And of course, each of us is to blame. If you're a politician and you give me money and I don't get it, or actually if I get the money and I vote a person of my choice, can't that discourage politicians from using money to influence the voters? Maybe we are also to blame the voters. Our role in...
Some voters agree with you, others...
Sure, everybody has an opinion, but I think we are to blame as voters. Because if you brought your money and you tried to buy me and I refuse, if I can't refuse, at least let me take it, but I vote the person of my choice. So if I spend 500 million in a campaign and I lose, and I realize I lost because people are taking my money and not actually translating that money into their votes, next time I will check myself. It happens here, it happens elsewhere. In future, it will be home and dry. But back to your question. First of all, parties are supposed to account to us. Okay? Their source of funds, the funds they have spent in an election. But do we have the actual monitoring tools to know how much money came into Party A and to know how Party A spent that money? Some people will sell their land and they will not bank that money. How will the Electoral Commission know that money got from the sale of this land has gone into elections? Some people will receive donations from friends and they will not declare. How will the Electoral Commission know that? Okay, if it knows and it realizes that the accountability you have made to the Electoral Commission is false, what sanctions are there under the law to punish that party? So it's a big challenge. And the solution is, I think, our morals. No amount of technology advance, no amount of legislation can stop people from receiving and spending money on others. But the moment you realize that you are trading your service, with a contestant, because if I have paid you to vote for me, don't ask me anything after the elections. Because I don't have any social contract with you. You sold your vote, I had the money, I bought it, period. But you hear people say, we don't have this service, we don't have this service, and they are the very people who benefit from politicians' funds. So I think we need to have a mindset change, to know that actually your vote is your right and your responsibility. I heard him talk of the right. A right is effective if it is coupled with a responsibility. But it can't be only right. There has to be an accompanying responsibility. So let us stand up, go for a service. Actually, if politicians give you money, eat it, but vote a person of your choice. Eventually, we are going to get leaders who have money, but with less ideas. So are you voting for money?
Have you already reached that point?
Well, I don't know. It's open to everyone's analysis. But eventually, you are going to have people in leadership positions who don't have much to offer in terms of
ideas and propelling the country forward.
But
really.
Because they are successful businessmen and they have money to deploy.
Or they can fundraise.
So people who have ideas, okay, that are good for our societies, they are going to stay on the sidelines because they don't have the funds, the amount of money that they need to campaign.
All right, but very quickly, isn't there a limit on fundraising?
Well, there is. There is.
Is this
The
limit
moment,
being respected?
Whenever we organize elections, we appoint dates for different activities. So the day we close the update of our register is the day we ban fundraising campaigns, effective that day. But somebody will tact-free utilize the time before the end of the update. Okay? Do whatever he has to do or she has to do, and on the dot, he or she stops, and then finds ways of making sure that the money moves. Because money does not move in the presence of everybody. It moves at night. There is mobile money now. Okay? I will be sending somebody, I really pity my brother here, who monitors campaign spending. If I'm sending money on my mobile line, how will you know that that money is going to a voter or it is going to attend to my home issues?
All right.
How do you know that? It's a challenge.
Okay, Mr. Muguzi would like to build on that, but it is time for us to take a break. Let's take a break, but stay tuned because after the break, this discussion continues. Welcome back from the break. We're glad that you've kept it here on NBS TV, and this is Face the Citizens. I'm your host, Iguma Gabriel. Today we're discussing campaign financing. And to discuss that with us, the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, Jotham Taremwa, the coordinator of the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy, Crispy Kaheru, and Mr. Henry Muguzi, Executive Director for Alliance for Finance Monitoring. Before we went for the break, Mr. Taremwa had given context from the side of the Electoral Commission. Mr. Muguzi, you wanted to add something, but even as you do, one of the things Mr. Taremwa said is, you may not stop people from giving money, but the voters should not let that dictate what they're going to vote. So basically, you can take the money, but still vote, you know, from your conscience, vote for the right leader. This begs the question, is there an actual problem with campaign financing? Because if the people are going to receive some money, but still vote their, the candidate they want, they've made more money.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. We have a problem with statements such as eat widely, but vote wisely. What that has happened, what that has led
Eat widely, but vote wisely.
Eat widely, like eat from everybody, but when you go to vote in that basin, you know who to vote. So what that has done is that it has escalated the cost of campaigning. Today, in that House 10th Parliament, you have MPs that have spent 1.7 billion. And this is what they can estimate. Okay? You have the list that has spent around 500, 800 million. Now, because contesting for elective seats in Uganda has become too expensive, the people that want to go into those seats will look for the money however they can, wherever they can find it. And most of this money will be found with people with different interests, people who have different interests. And they could be nationals with business interests, or they could be foreigners. Now, once they get this money, they will bring it, and you will eat widely, you eat widely and vote wisely, but that person you're going to vote for, who will also have used the money, will be pocketed, will be hijacked, will be snatched from you by that person that bankrolled him in those campaigns, and will serve not your interests, but the interests of the one who financed him or her. Now, in the context of the political party, you have even bigger stakes. You will have a stakeholder such as China, which we know has an agenda to buy off Africa, financing bankrolling a political party. And once this political party gains power, then China will pocket it. So you have a political party in government that is in a state of we call it state capture, that is captured. your state is captured and it is not serving the interests of citizens, but the interests of the financier. And these are real challenges that we are facing.
Can that actually be proved?
Absolutely. What will happen is that the nationals, first of all, all the state contracts, you will see where they will go, because the people who finance candidates, the people who finance political parties during elections, and elections provide a window of opportunities for them to exercise their interests, do so for quid pro quo reasons. They do give you the money in anticipation that they want something. So as they're giving you the money, they're asking, when is the next contract? When is the next road? When is the next Entebbe Express highway? You understand? So in the end, you have your nation that's captured. But let me tell you this as well.
All right, just because that there is a very big issue. Absolutely. Mr. Taremwa, how do we safeguard our elections from being a tool by which some people end up controlling, you know, the leaders, but also the decisions we make as a country?
I think let's not touch here, not touch there. Let's approach this discussion right away from the ground. Yes. You go to these primary schools, somebody is in P4, somebody is in P3. He or she is standing for a prefectorial position. You will find they have posters, colored posters. Okay? You will find some of them having even T-shirts with their photographs. They will be demanding sweets from their parents. Let's not escalate this to the level of external influence, external interests.
That's true.
Because if we have to show this, it must start from the ground. I wish the ministry, I don't know, maybe they can also challenge it if there are no laws. But if the Ministry, for example, of Education worked with the Ministry of Ethics and they banned these posters in schools, you know, some of the parents who are able, they influence elections of those young people in those primary schools.
All right, going by that,
okay,
aren't there things that the Electoral Commission should also ban so that we don't see such things in our elections?
Because for us, whatever Electoral Commission has to do, there must be a corresponding legal provision. Otherwise, you will take a position as Electoral Commission, you ban A, B, C, D, and somebody will take you to court, and you will pay heavily if there is no legal provision. What we only do is what does the law require? The law says you can ban fundraising during campaigns. And the Electoral Commission will begin from there. But if, for example, now people are conducting fundraising, they are going to mosques, to churches, to schools, they are promising to stand in 2021, they are not our candidates. Because for us, we exercise powers over a candidate. They are not our candidates. What will the Electoral Commission go and say? That stop, you are spending this money on this church? You cannot. You cannot. So for us, we only act where the law allows us. Because we know if we acted outside the law, it will fall on us. The responsibility is mine and yours.
All right, we've seen T-shirts, we've seen buses. Very soon we may even see helicopters.
Yeah.
Nothing can be done.
Yeah. What will stop Gabriel, who has his money, to use helicopters to land in different districts on the same day?
So currently I can use any amount of money to get elected.
Well.
And the Electoral Commission cannot do anything. As long as I got the money before the money they stopped the fundraising
money
period.
Finance monitoring can tell us if there is any figure within the law that a member of parliament should not exceed, or a presidential candidate should not exceed, or the LOC1 chairperson. We have had LOC1 elections. You saw those big and powerful posters, some of them digitalized. LOC1.
With motorcades. With motorcades.
With motorcades. This is a village election where people within that village come and line behind a candidate of their choice. Okay? But you see them with motorcades. Whom are you introducing yourself in a village with your poster, for example? They must be knowing you. But you see them with posters, T-shirts, capes, bangles.
Crispy, how do we start to solve this problem?
First and foremost, I think we need to appreciate that we must start from what Jotham said, the mindset change. For as long as we think that to get elected you must use some form of inducement, then you start to get it wrong from that very level. In nursery schools, you have the sweet syndrome. In the tertiary institutions and universities, you have the logistics. At a national level, you have what they call facilitation. And by the way, this is not only in elective politics. The syndrome of facilitation, everything, people are asking for money, even to do their own job that they're supposed to be doing, ask for money. Now, first of all, you have to look at it from that perspective, that for us to be able to do something, we must start from somewhere, and somewhere on a value-based slate.
All right. So if it is going that far, there is civic education.
Yes, Iguma.
Yep.
Let me just mention this. One, for as long as people do not understand that it's just immoral to take money for you to subject that to a decision of whether to vote somebody or not, you are wrong. That's when that issue of civic education comes in. You have to train people from the lowest of levels, from nursery schools, where is the civics in the education sector. We don't have it. We no longer have civics being taught in primary schools. Do we have political education being taught in secondary schools? It's not there. So how do you build people's consciousness to know that it's just immoral, it's just wrong for me to sell my vote, that my vote is so important and cannot be bought even by $1 billion shillings?
All right. Now, one thing that is definitely illegal is, after they've closed campaigns and what have you, giving out things. Does this happen in our elections?
After closing campaigns?
After they've closed campaigns, the day of voting, there should be no activities, no giving out money and what have you. Does this still happen?
It still happens. We still see it. I think in some of the elections that we have observed, we've even interacted with the locals who have actually confessed that I have taken this amount of money to vote for so-and-so, or so-and-so came to give us this money, 1,000 shillings. And by the way, it's not even a lot of money that sways these people. It's 1,000 shillings, it's 2,000 shillings. Some cases, it's 500 shillings. And somebody gets swayed to move to go to a polling station because of that 500 shillings to vote for a particular candidate. We see it.
All right. Let's get questions from our audience.
I'm Edward from Kampala International University. I wish to set my minds with a person from the Electoral Commission. I think the problem starts with poverty. The way these people are poor, even if you give them 1,000, they see you as someone who has taken them from hell to heaven. So if a bourgeoisie leaves this town, goes back to the village, give these people 2,000, as he said, they can't fail to vote him.
All right.
The biggest thing is about sensitization from the Electoral Commission. That's what I request the Electoral Commission to do, as what we had in Rukunjiri. People are still having the borders being given them by the government.
All right.
But right now, we are having the person from the opposition in the parliament, yet the government spent good money there.
All
so
right.
sensitization is all about.
All right, Edward, thank you for your comment. Mr. Muguzi, is it only poor people that take this money?
No. Let me say this.
Very quickly, because we'd like to take another
on
question.
The question where you said, what can we do? I think for starters, let us legislate on election campaign financing, because we do not have a single provision in the electoral laws of Uganda that regulates money in election campaigns. But to the issue of poverty, you see, poverty has been with us. Poverty has been upon us since time immemorial. if you study the trends of campaign spending, they've been increasing, okay? And let me say something about poverty. You see, when you speak with the so-called poor people and understand their rationality, the rationality of this poor voter is this, that I have been voting, but the people I vote forget about me. 5 years go and pass by, I have not benefited. I remain the same poor, poverty-stricken guy, okay, living in squalor. Now, so why don't I take the little they give me? And believe you me, our people are so loyal that they will give you the vote once you give them the money.
All right, let's take, yes, madam.
Thank you so much. By the names of Ganda Aisha from Kampala International University. I would like to sideline with the gentleman. And yeah, it actually is that people are poor, but they have a level of trust that they give to some people. There are actually some people who will be asked whether they be given money, and they will still vote the person that gave them the money. And there are those with the mindset that won't vote that person even when they are given the money. Now, where the problem really is not whether or not you voted the person who has given you the money. It actually stands solely on where they have not voted. Imagine that these people already have some sort of power. So imagine if I'm coming from a certain political party, that is where the strength is sidelined to. And then we do not vote a certain region. I believe if the Electoral Commission was silent about the areas that don't vote as a certain person, then it would be protective enough for the citizens whether or not they vote that person.
Aisha, thank you for your comment. We are going for a break right now, but after the break, we take more questions from the audience and we get answers from the panel. Let's go for a break right now. Welcome back from the break. Thank you for staying with us here on Face the Citizens. I'm your host, Iguma Gabriel. We're talking about campaign financing with Crispy Kaheru, Jotham Taremwa, and Henry Muguzi. We had questions that the audience had asked. If you could just respond to those very quickly, and then we take more questions. Jotham.
Thank you very much. First of all, I don't believe that poverty is a big influence on campaign spending. You realize that if at home you were born by decent parents, even when you are poor and you go to school and you see money around you from rich students, you will never touch that money. If somebody tries to influence you with money, you will never do it because you have that moral competence. So I don't think it is
poverty per se.
Now, the moment we understand that an election or the candidate you want to vote into office is not going to benefit you as an individual, you are voting somebody into office who is going to promote or provide a common public good. The moment we realize that that's why we vote people, then we shall get out of our selfish interests. And you will not look at Kaher who is standing to satisfy your personal interest. You are looking for schools. It is not going to be a school for one person. You are looking for health services. You are looking for good roads. So the moment you understand that my vote is for a common public good, it is not to benefit me as an individual, then definitely you will value your vote. Take your vote as a bargaining power for the provision or promotion of a common public good.
All right. Asha brought in a new aspect, and she said people may fear that if we vote a certain way, there will be a backlash. And it is not uncommon during campaigns that we hear people say, if you don't vote for candidate X, you're not going to get services. Isn't this a problem as well?
Well, but you know when you are campaigning for me, you are going to talk about my competencies. If you think Tarema has connections that can deliver health services, that can bring roads to your community, that can improve on the general welfare of the people. You are going to point those competencies out. Okay? But that is not for me
Our
to say.
connections, competencies.
Well, connections, maybe you are talking of political connections. I might be having connections with the Ministry of Water. And I know if I get there, maybe the MD is my good friend, or I have people there, I can lobby. Maybe I have connections in the Ministry of Works. I can lobby. Okay? Those are the connections I'm talking about. But now you see Tarimwa.
Where does this leave
You know?
an ordinary
This is an
person who has
issue
been
of
with you in
campaigning.
the community
You are trying to-
and has good
you are
leadership
trying to
skills?
say, in what we need, we think this person can bring them faster than Tarimwa can. That's what I'm saying. Okay? That is my point. That's my point.
All right.
If you want to think beyond that.
All right,
up to you.
we need to go to
but
the
I also
audience.
need to make a correction. I think there is also a problem. Electoral Commission, we don't have the civic mandate to conduct civic education. That role and responsibility lies with the different agents of government. Ours is limited to voter education.
All right.
Voter education, what are you educating voters? This is what Electoral Commission is going to do. We shall be compiling the register. It will be at this place. It will be at this time. Please go there and register. Please go there and check if your name is on the register. That's where we participate.
All right, we need to take a question from the audience. The Uganda Human Rights Commission is the body that's mandated to do civic education. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
Very quickly, please,
I'm
'cause we
Chere
don't have
Emmanuel.
time.
I come from Karamoja.
Yes, Emmanuel.
Yeah, Mr. Taramwa is saying that we must blame the voters for taking money. And for me, I'm saying no. It's a leadership question, meaning that the bottleneck is at the top of the bottom. So there's no way we can blame voters, yet it is even leaders who are at liberty, for example, to change the mindset of the people. Imagine a member of parliament is paid twice in a month to go to the constituency. He's an ex-official to the district council. So he cannot go because he doesn't have money. For me, what I'm saying that it's a leadership question. It's that we must, as leaders, change the mindset of the people. But if we don't as leaders, therefore, you can still stay long. You can still live long in power. And then when you say that let's eat the money and vote wisely, we also what happened in Rukungiri. The president demanded back the tractors which he gave. and then the LOC ones, for example, you're blaming LOC ones for having posters and so forth. We saw government gave money for LOC ones to campaign. So it's a leadership question.
I have a lady at the back in black. Your name and question or comment?
Azere Brandy Valentine
Yes, Brandy,
from Uganda Christian University.
from UCU.
Yes. So right now we're talking about campaign financing. Before we talk about how the leaders bribe and lobby for money, let's first talk about the ideal. What is the ideal supposed to be like? I believe the ideal is I come, I contest. When I qualify, I sell you my manifesto, and then I convince you to vote for me. The reality is the more money, the more people I can get hooked onto voting for me. What gap is left? The gap is how is the leadership in our country affected by this money that I have given you without my manifesto? So fine, you have won, you're now in parliament. What are you going to do for me? Because you didn't sell me your manifesto in the very first place. All you did was give me money. So this is the problem we're talking about. We cannot turn this around and say it's the voters. Even me as a voter, I can stand and become an MP tomorrow. So it will still not be my problem as a voter. It will still be the problem of the leadership in our country after I give you 500 shillings, and then after that, you say you are my MP.
All right.
Yes.
Brandy, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Seth Nyesiga, Guild Councillor, School of Management, Chambogo University. First and foremost, my credit goes to Wizards Foundation for this platform, where we discuss matters that benefit our nation. Secondly, credit also goes to Mr. Muguzi and the entire committee that fights this campaign finance. This will improve the mindset of the people. My question goes to Jotham. By the campaign time, when the general campaigns are open. How secure is this youth who is ready to take a photograph and submit it to the Electoral Commission? How secure is he that when he submits it, maybe they will not do one or two things to him? In conclusion, to me, to the public, eat the money, but vote ideas. Thank you very much.
All right. Do I have anybody seated in this audience that has vied for a national position? Would like to hear what your experience was. Oh, there's a hand that has gone up right behind you. Yes, madam. What position did you vie for?
Well, my name is Paulina Chanowing. I ran for the woman seat in Amoro district in a by-election in 2014. My experience. Well, now I'm speaking as a voter. Now let me speak as a voter.
First of all, did you spend money?
Yes, I did.
What did you spend the money on?
I spent money on facilitating my agents. I spent money on transportation. I spent money on public address system. I spent money on the voters asking me for water because they don't want to listen to you until you've given them some water.
They start to show you their throats are dry.
Yes, they start to scratch their throat.
So they don't want your issues. They want water.
Naturally, they will ask you, John Pierre, you know, for me to sit, my back is going to hurt, so you need to give me something. It is very hot, it's dry, you want me to sit down and listen to you, give me some water. So for me, while I would say those that have been elected as well to blame for financing in a certain way, but ask the voters as well, facilitate this corrupt act. Because the voters, for me, let me speak from my own experience. They would directly demand and ask that you give them something if you want them to, just to come and listen to you. You've called for a meeting somewhere, then they come and stand around the trees. They're not sitting down because they're waiting for you to first give them something, then they will come and sit down. And you want to talk to them. You also want to show the other people that I have a crowd, because also the crowd matters in a campaign. So you'll end up giving them something. So yes, I think we as the people, as Ugandans, we are naturally, morally, not right.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that comment. And Crispy, let me come to you because we are actually out of time. So this will be your last remarks on the show. I'll start with you, Crispy. If there's any question you'd like to respond to and to give your closing remark, because we have to end.
I'll say this, that to deal with this moral issue, we need to first frame the issue. And we have to frame it legally so that we get the backing of institutions such as the Electoral Commission, such as the National Consultative Forum of Political Parties, such as the Parliament, such as, you know, to deal with this issue. The schools, the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Ethics, to handle this issue. Now, that is why it's important that we frame it first as a legal issue so that we get the backing of institutions, but look at it with the moral lenses, because it's a moral issue. Back in the day, in 1962, in the 70s and the 80s, people were equally poor. How come they were not asking for bribes from people? How come they were not asking for, you know? That is how we have to look at this. But also, secondly and most importantly, if we continue to look at this as a poverty issue, then we get it wrong. Then we would be having thefts every night, every day. We would be having robberies because people are poor. It's a moral issue, and we need to define it as a problem of morals rather than a deficiency of money or resources.
All right. Thank you, Crispy. Yes, Mr. Taremo.
First of all, I want us to own up. Rather than saying, because the leaders, they are the ones pushing this money to us, let's own up and refuse this money. We have to start this conversation. Otherwise, if we are here to debate about money and we are not willing to take a step in our individual capacities to challenge this abnormality that looks a normality, then we are not doing much. We must begin this conversation, and we must be willing to take it forward. It's like saying, I have a husband who doesn't provide much, but because somebody is rich and he can give me what I want, I can cheat on my husband. The fact that the legislator or the leader is doing a wrong is not a license for you as a voter to do wrong. I wanted to make that comment clear. How secure is the youth who is going to take that photograph and share it with the relevant authorities? First of all, the Alliance for Finance Monitoring. If you have to monitor elections, seek authority and accreditation. If you are a legally established body, you are an interested body in an election, come, get accredited. Right. Identify your people who are doing the job, and you will be protected.
Okay.
For the youth who is taking photographs, you have found me exchanging money with Crispin, and you are taking a photograph. Suppose I'm paying back his debt.
And especially, yeah, you need to.
It's a challenge.
Crispy says pay his debt.
You actually,
It's a challenge.
All right.
But for now, I think I can.
All right,
I can lose my case.
all right, let's leave it there, Mr. Muguzi.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, let me say this, that voters are complicit in compounding this problem of highly commercialized politics, because of those voters, we always see spending wars between candidates, and this escalates the cost of contesting. But let me say this, that there should be a conspiracy between institutions that are mandated to do something. We should have unison in language and understanding that the time is now to start doing something. And one of the things we can do already is to do what is not there. Let us legislate. Because if there are legal provisions, then the Electoral Commission has powers to do something. Yeah. And even when we do know that laws in and of themselves may not do much, but when the laws are there, the candidates themselves can police each other to bring this madness down. Lastly, I think the issue of leadership now has to come up. If you are a legislator, if you are a member of the National Consultative Forum, if you sit in IPOD, if you work with the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, can we start a discussion? Because no longer can we sweep this problem under the carpet. The truth is that highly monetized elections is with us, is going to bite us, is going to continue disrupting the equilibrium of our economy.
All right.
And so we need to do something.
Mr. Henry Muguzi, Executive Director, Alliance for Finance Monitoring, Mr. Jotham Taremwa, spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, and Mr. Crispin Kaheru, coordinator of the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy. Thank you very much for being our panelists on Face the Citizens. Our citizens that are seated in the Wizards auditorium and those that have watched us from home via television, thank you very much for being a part of this show. The problem of election finance is a problem that you and I should contribute at stopping. What are you going to do about it? I'm your host, Iguma Gabriel. Until next time, goodbye.